I am late to the game, again. But that's okay, because I still got to watch Peak. I recently just watched The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity, yet another entry in the long list of high school romance anime that I just can't seem to stop watching, even though I also made a video about how I'm sick of them and want more adult romances. Well, what can you do? Now, this video is going to have 3 parts to it that you can watch depending on how spoiler sensitive you are. So if you're extremely sensitive to spoilers, just listen to this one thing I have to say and then come back later to hear me gush about the rest of the show like a little baby. So watch this show if you're looking for romance. Fluffy positive romance. Romance where things actually happen and don't take forever. Romance with well-written side characters. Romance with emotional intelligence and feet. Wait, what? Okay, now I'm going to talk about the show properly. I'm still going to try to avoid any big spoilers for anything huge and major. That'll be saved for the very end of the video, but let's just start off with a super quick plot summary so you know what's going on. So, like many romance anime, it's boy meets girl. We've got Rintaro on one side, very tall, has dyed blonde hair, piercings, and people are generally really afraid of him, despite him actually being a nice and thoughtful guy. And in my opinion, not nearly scary looking enough if people are going to actually be this scared of him. Kind of like Ryuji from Toradora. He goes to a school called which is portrayed as like kind of a sort of shitty school for kind of dumb people, just like mediocre all around. So like a top 10 school if it was in America. Rintaro's family also owns like this cute little cake shop that he helps out at sometimes. And a person who loves to visit said cake shop is our other main lead, Kaoruko. She is physically the exact opposite of Rintaro. She's a tiny, cute little fluff ball and also a little gremlin at the same time. This scene in particular had me melting into a pile of goo because holy fuck, it's so cute. These two kind of have like a Romeo and Juliet type of situation going on because the school that she goes to, Kyoko, is the polar opposite of Chidori. They are prim and proper, full of smart people, and they absolutely despise the students from Chidori, which makes it very difficult for anyone between the two schools to be friends. That's the basic premise. Now, if you don't even know anything about what's going to happen after that, it's pretty obvious. These two meet, they grow close, they form bridges between the two schools so that their friends can also start to be friends across these boundaries, and eventually they're going to start dating, which is exactly what happens. I'm so sorry for spoiling. I know, I'm terrible. But the way it happens is what stood out to me so much. Specifically, a couple of things. This show masterfully handles pacing, side characters, and dialogue in a way that is pretty uncommon, I'd say, in the romance genre. Let's talk about the pacing first. Now, I couldn't help but compare this show to other romance anime, both shows that I hate and shows that I love, as well as shows that I hate love. And when you've seen enough romance anime, you tend to see the same things over and over again every time. In fact, here's a list that I wrote out of just some of them. I'm just a dude with no friends, nobody understand me. Wacky chance first encounter with love interest who seems way out of my league. Group of degen guy friends. Studying date. Birthday, oh no, what kind of gifts do girls like? Beach or hot springs episode, or both. Locked in the supply closet, they fall on each other and almost kiss. Sports festival / culture festival / both. Summer festival with fireworks. Main character discovers a new passion inspired by their love interest. Someone gets a cold after running around in the rain and it somehow completely cripples them and makes them delirious, and their love interest makes food for them, confesses to them while they're barely conscious and leaves, and then the sick character magically completely recovers the next morning and didn't hear any of it. Side ship, fake out confession, and real confession. Now, I'm not saying Fragrant Flower is not doing these tropes. It absolutely is doing a lot of them. But it does something that amazed me right from the start. The any percent speedrun of this list. Now, just like in speedruns, some of these tropes are optimized, some of them are just outright skipped, at least in the 13 episodes that we got, and some of them come way earlier than expected. Normally, when you have a beach episode, it's pretty common for there to be a whole bunch of, oh my god, look at all these girls in swimsuits and bikinis, blah, 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 blah. No, they're not even wearing swimsuits. We are saving time. Normally, there's also a whole thing about, oh my god, I want to ask this girl for her line or her phone number so we can text. No, skipped right past it. Didn't even talk about it. They just cut directly to these two already texting. No noise, no nothing, just efficiency. And the best example I have is with conflict resolution, fixing misunderstandings. In episode 2, Rintaro and Kaoruko have a little bit of a miscommunication, a little blunder. Rintaro says something that unintentionally kind of hurts Kaoruko. She gets a little sad and goes home. This happens at around 14 minutes into the episode. You know what happens after that? Rintaro talks to his mom about it. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to talk about this later, but the side characters in the show are 11 out of 10. And how rare and refreshing is it for a main character this early on to actually confide in his mother when talking about romance troubles? It's amazing. But after this one conversation, the very next morning, Rintaro meets Kaoruko in front of their schools, directly apologizes, and she also comes clean about her feelings too. Like instantly. It's fully resolved at around 20 minutes into the episode. The entire conflict from start to finish only lasts lasted about 6 minutes. For reference, it's scientifically proven that if this was Rent-A-Girlfriend, it would have taken like 50 chapters, an entire year of real life time. Actually, it might not even get resolved, ever. This series is full of these types of quick, introspective, emotionally intelligent conflict resolutions that are incredibly refreshing to watch. Subaru's introduction is another great example. She's Kaoruko's friend and is introduced as basically like a full-on villain, just causing shit, going, you can't be friends with these people, they're from that dirty school, wah. And literally less than 1 episode later, she is sitting in a cafe with Rintaro, opening up, explaining her story, and ultimately resolving this conflict, again, so quickly, but still in a way that feels natural and not rushed. There's also a conflict between Rintaro and Saku, who's one of his friends from the greatest group of guy friends in anime history, more on that later, and it's initially not even really one of the major conflicts that gets a lot of focus when it happens, but guess what? It's resolved in 2 episodes. And the reason it took 2 episodes is because the runtime in the middle was used to resolve other, bigger conflicts first. Yeah, this show is efficient. Okay, now I've got a question for you. How do you write good dialogue? It's a very broad question, has a lot of different answers, but one answer that I really love is that to write good dialogue, you need to assume that your characters are always thinking about stuff. They don't only exist when they're on screen, reacting to stuff that's happening. They each have 24 hours a day, most of which aren't being shown to live their lives. We as the audience only get to see snippets, the highlights. Now, looking at Fragrant Flower, it's very clear that every single character is actively thinking all the time, even the stupid ones. And the result is that we get a lot of emotional intelligence, and honestly just intelligence in general. There is one thing that stood out to me pretty early on, and it's gonna sound a little silly, but it's a huge gripe that I have that this show just does amazingly well, and that's the use of basic technology, aka the cell phone, which is an amazing communication device that makes conversations easy and convenient. When Naruto, and guess what? When things happen, like in episode 3 after the whole Subaru conflict that I mentioned earlier, Kaoruko texts Rintaro that same night, and she says, "Hey, sorry, I know it's late, but can I call you?" And then opens the call with, "Hey, I just wanted to talk about what happened today. I thought it'd be quicker to call." Yes! Exactly! It would be quicker to call! Kazuya, Chizuru, learn from this! During that phone conversation, they end up talking about how Kaoruko always uses polite language when speaking to Rintaro. And there's a line that just kind of weirdly stuck out to me, because he thinks to himself, how is she going to react to what I'm about to say? And this is gonna sound silly again, but when I was watching this episode in Discord with my friends, I popped off here and said something like, oh my god, that means we have a male romance lead who actually thinks about what he's going to say in advance. It's amazing. Just generally speaking though, these characters are always so aware of what they're saying, how they're saying it, how it might be interpreted by the other person, considering their background and past experiences, all sorts of things. And the key thing is, they're not really afraid to apologize for stepping out of line, and also to thank each other and be grateful for each other for being such good friends. Honestly, I even think it can be a little much. Like, there's almost too much thanking and apologizing in this show, to the point where I was like, okay guys, I think we get it. You're sorry, you're very sorry, I know. But I also think that's a pretty good problem to have compared to the opposite, which can lead to hours and hours of your life wasted to stupid misunderstandings that didn't need to happen. Okay, now let's talk about the characters. Not even the main 2 characters, but the side characters, who I think absolutely stole the show for me and were a huge reason why I loved this show so much. Every single supporting character in Fragrant Flower is fleshed out. First of all, the boys are amazing. This is one of the finest group of lads a male romance MC has ever had. They're emotionally aware, they're involved, they're all individual people instead of a hive mind of dumbasses enabling shitty behavior, and they're just an amazing, positive male support network for Rintaro and for each other. And you know what? Fuck it, let's do a tier list. Shohei is the comedic relief character because, of course, there still needs to be a silly boy and a happy golden retriever that we can all look to be the one to speak up first and lighten the mood when things get tense. He is portrayed as a little bit of a dummy, but it's clear that he still cares. He cares about his friends, he's perceptive when they're not feeling well, and he speaks up and provides reassurance when appropriate. He's just a very good boy, and I wouldn't be surprised if we got some deeper exploration into his character later in the manga. And for that, he's S tier. Ayato, the secret killer, the short king. One of the less talkative and standout characters in the show, but it only serves to make him stand out all the more whenever he does do or say something. He's like this amazing secret martial arts master, but at the same time, he's very emotionally aware and competent. The scene with him and Rintaro at the bowling alley stood out a lot to me to reinforce this idea. Ayato notices something's off with Rintaro, goes with him to a more private place away from the others to talk, and he gets Rintaro to open up and ask the question that's on his mind that's been bothering him. What does it mean to date someone? And Ayato's response is fantastic. I don't fucking know. Maybe everyone just starts dating without really understanding it. Spot on, my guy. Spot on. It just shows that Ayato is incredibly mature, perceptive, and a great supportive friend to have. He then goes on to absolutely shit on everyone at bowling. What's not to love? S tier. Saku is a character that I want to see more from, and I trust that the manga will deliver that. Other than Rintaro, he's easily the most closed off of the bunch, but he gradually learns to trust his friends more. He's often crude, kind of confrontational, and it sometimes leads to problems, which is awesome because he has Shigaraki's voice actor, so it kind of sounds like the greatest villain on earth is shit-talking you to your face. But as time goes on, he becomes more trusting, more supportive, and absolutely willing to admit his faults, apologize, and change. When it comes to Rintaro and his troubles, Saku's the guy to step in and say that if Rintaro has something he wants to talk to them about, that they should let Rintaro decide that for himself, on his own time, and that it's their job as his friends to be his support network when that time comes. Saku is also clearly the subject of the side ship being set up in this show, so they better deliver on that. Anyway, S tier. Are you noticing a pattern? Now, on the girls' side, I know that there's going to be more, but so far we've just got Subaru in the anime, who I've talked about already. But Subaru gets a lot of focus as well as Kaoruko's precious childhood friend. And at the beginning, she is extremely overprotective of her. She embodies the whole conflict between the two schools, but over time also embodies the bridge that starts to form between them. They don't really let her adopt the villain persona for very long. Like I mentioned earlier, literally less than one episode later, and she's already starting to open up and gradually becomes like an all-out amazing fleshed out character as we explore her backstory with Kaoruko and her self-hatred that she feels. She ends up feeling genuinely terrible about herself for acting the way that she did. And she takes further action on that. She steps out of her comfort zone, apologizes like a million times, and accepts the apologies of others as well, and ends up actively joining this group of friends, learning more and more about them and about herself. I figure we might learn more about this in the manga, but it's also lightly brought up that Subaru has a trauma that she carries with her around men, which adds a layer of nuance to all the communication barriers and anxiety that we see in a lot of her interactions. But this just makes it all the more impressive and admirable when we see her pushing through this and learning the value of having this positive support network. Subaru is clearly on her gradual journey, as she states herself, to learn to love herself. And that is incredible to watch. S tier. Okay, now the parents. Oh my god, the parents. Parents are very often thrown to the side in these kinds of stories, or in some cases they're reserved only for the biggest moments, only when shit's gotten real bad, like the world is like falling apart, and then the parents step in last minute like, hey, don't forget that you can rely on us too, and then they take care of stuff as a climactic gesture. Not the case here. This show is proof that parents can just be part of your regular everyday support network, just like anyone else. You don't need to have them step in for the last minute save. Now, Rintaro's mom is absolutely a Hall of Fame anime mom. I did already mention before with the example in episode 2 in the 6-minute conflict resolution that Rintaro actually talks to his mom about his problems, which is rare. And it's no wonder that they can do that because she really understands and cares about her son. The episode that goes into her backstory about her dyeing her hair and piercing her ears in solidarity with her son because she was so excited to support him after so much time being worried about him not smiling, not having friends, not finding any joy in life, that warmed my heart so much. Seeing her so relieved and happy to see that Rintaro's finally made a whole bunch of great supportive friends was an absolute joy. S tier. Rintaro's dad, on the other hand, was a surprise to me, partly because I didn't even know he existed for a while. Earlier in that same episode, Rintaro's friends bring up the idea of going over to his place for the first time, and he says something like, oh shit, I just realized that I've never told my friends about my family. And in that moment, I was like, wait a minute, you have also never told us about your family either. Like, I don't really know anything other than mom, cake shop. So color me surprised when it was revealed that Rintaro actually has a dad. I literally assumed that his dad was like dead or overseas or something, like, you know, the typical anime dad. It's also revealed that he has a brother too, but in the anime we haven't really seen anything about him yet, so I'll leave that be for now. But color me even more surprised when it was revealed that this man is a Giga Chad cake chef. He's not a deadbeat dad. He's not an office worker who's super busy and absent from the family. He's literally been here the whole time, just silently working in the back to support everyone. And even though he's a man of few words, he is still absolutely present when the time comes to support his son. When Rintaro came to him asking to learn how to make a cake for Kawaruko, and his question was, "What feeling do you want to convey with your cake?" I knew this man was not just a regular dad or a regular baker. He was an artiste S tier, obviously. This show has so many positive role models all around to make this kind of interweaving web of positive influences, and it really adds to the overall atmosphere of, fluff and positivity going on. There's also little nuggets of character backstory that are kind of sprinkled around everywhere, so I'm looking forward to learning more about that stuff as well. It's stuff like, hey, why is Saku at Chidori despite him being this super ultra smart student? And what actually happened to Subaru in her childhood that gave her this trauma? These are not things that are thrown right in your face from the beginning. They're just kind of laid out lightly to give you time to process them and ponder them, while also giving you enough information that you can start to understand how these sorts of things could affect character motivations and behavior. Okay, now it's full spoiler time because I'm going to talk about the last 2 episodes of the anime. So if you care about that, feel free to skip to the last chapter of the video. All right, here we go. Remember earlier in the video when I was talking about speedrunning romance tropes? Well, one of these tropes was the fake out confession. Those times where a character is thinking about confessing, maybe they're about to do it, but then they chicken out last minute, or something or someone shows up to interrupt it. Fragrant Flower, being the masterful speedrunner it is, decided to fake the fake confession. Because look at the setup here. Rintaro and Kaoruko are at the beach. They're friends, just left to go get drinks, and they're having an intimate talk one-on-one. The animation is all beautiful and gorgeous. They're talking about their plans for the future. Things are building up to something, and then Rintaro just blurts it out. And it shocked me. Maybe it shouldn't have, but we've seen this type of setup so many times. Maybe the waves were too loud and she couldn't hear. Maybe some fireworks go off right at that moment. Maybe it turns out that he was only thinking it and he didn't actually say it out loud. Maybe his friends come back right before he gets to say it. Or the worst one, maybe she did hear it, but she deludes herself into thinking, oh, he must mean that he just likes me as a friend. Nope. None of that. Message received, loud and clear, no misinterpretations. It was so fast, so subtle, so casual. Honestly, it caught me off guard. Like, I heard it and just jumped up in my chair and started freaking out. 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds. And look what happens right after too. Rintaro's friends do come back, like a few seconds later, which means the dumb trope of the friends coming back to interrupt the confession did happen. It's just that Rintaro was too fast. He beat them to the punch. He didn't waste any time, and he just said what he wanted to say. And for that, my boy gets an S+ tier placement. But we're still not done. True to what I was saying earlier about efficiency and communication, Rintaro calls Kaoruko after and directly says, hey, I confessed to you earlier, let's talk about it because we got interrupted. There's no hiding from each other. There's no embarrassment for days and days afterwards. There's no scene where it like cuts to black and then Rintaro's like, it's been 3 weeks and Kaoruko hasn't shown up to the cake shop ever since. Like nothing, no stupid drama thing like that. It's just straight to the point, hey, let's call and talk about that. And again, in the name of efficiency, Kaoruko suggests that they meet up at the summer festival to talk about it. And they just immediately cut to that. They spend a little bit of time hanging out there, and then just 5 minutes into the last episode, my man reconfesses his feelings. He states his reasons, he says he wants to spend more time with her, and he asks her out very properly. And the response from Kaoruko, I've known you your whole life. Kurosaki Ichigo. Okay, it's not that, but it's kind of like that, a little bit. Kaoruko reveals that she has been down bad for Rintaro for months before he even noticed her. And we finally get to see so much of the story from her perspective, which was awesome and refreshing to see. It is also obviously just super cute and wholesome to see as well. But the best thing to me was that this wasn't even that much of a surprise, because it was very lightly foreshadowed and hinted at in episode 1 during their first meeting. This wasn't an out of nowhere plot twist, it was a very gently and carefully placed seed which led to the whole story starting. We see that her first encounter with Rintaro, the one that he doesn't even remember, was the reason why she started coming to the cake shop so often in the first place. She was having a really rough time, she goes into this random cake shop and has a chance encounter with the guy working there, but it's thanks to that Kaoruko was able to notice Rintaro's kindness so early on. and that this was why it seemed like she was just so immediately attached to him and trusting of him right from the beginning of the anime. Something else that I noted down is that this flashback is really one of the first times that we're really seeing any kind of darkness in Kaoruko's character, because she was experiencing a really bad time in her life at the time of this flashback. She even drops a hint at what's going on in her life, that she'd just come back from visiting the hospital. I really did appreciate seeing this because it made her seem more real, more human. We finally got to see her not just smiling and cheerful, not literally just a cute positive fluffball, but an actually fully realized character with her own set of problems. But going back to the wholesome shit, Kaoruko feeling like she wanted to dress up and look pretty every time she wanted to go to the cake shop in hopes that she'd be able to talk to Rintaro there, not only is this adorable, but it also becomes the whole reason why their first encounter happened the way that it did. She'd gone so many times without seeing him that she grew complacent and didn't dress up. And the one time she doesn't, he shows up. And that explains her reaction in episode 1. I'm not even really exaggerating when I say this, but I felt like I was watching One Piece with how these seeds were planted early on, just for everything to come together here during this reveal. We then find out that Kaoruko embodies the spirit of the speedrun and summons the courage to literally outright tell Rintaro's mom that she's here to see him, which ends up setting the whole plot into motion. Turns out this girl has been the secret driver of plot and efficiency all along, and that gives us our last character placement, Kaoruko herself, going into the S++ tier. And I'll just end it off here with a very fitting observation. The first episode of this series is called Rintaro and Kaoruko, and the last episode, where we get the same story from Kaoruko's perspective, is called Kaoruko and Rintaro. Absolute cinema. Now, I just gushed a whole lot, and it's clear that I love this show. So is this show a perfect masterpiece that everyone will love? No. The dialogue is great, but ultimately still is pretty idealistic. It's almost too perfect and too clean at times. The characters also still definitely speak like anime characters at times rather than real people too. And for people looking for a super interesting story with a compelling narrative and drama, maybe this show isn't really that. It's still, at least from what's aired in the anime so far, mostly a cute, fluffy, wholesome watch. And if that's what you're looking for, then this show is pretty fantastic. If you're on the fence, you can give it a try. If you end up loving it like I did, that's great. If it's not really for you, that's totally fine too. So yeah, after all that, I think I'm probably gonna read the manga now. Partly because I really want to, and partly because some other people really want me to. Thanks for watching. I am really glad to be back to making these kinds of videos again, in addition to the game shows, because I honestly really missed it. And to those of you who have stuck around patiently waiting for this type of content to come back, thank you so much. Okay, bye. Idiot.